Believe it or not, we're getting closer to the 2025 college football season. And you know what that means. It's time for me to do my South Carolina Gamecocks 2025 football schedule preview. Let's get it. Before we begin with the video, I want to say thank you to everyone watching right now. I really appreciate it. Your support means the world to me. I mean, you could be doing anything else with your time right now, and you're watching my content. I greatly appreciate that. If you enjoy liking what I did here today and you like what I do, please consider hitting the subscribe button, give this video a like, and even share it. Share it with other Gamecock fans. Let's help grow the SCCFT community. And I do apologize for my absence as of late. I've been extremely busy with work, have not had time to cover basketball or baseball, but I will do it on a live show very, very soon. But now that that's out of the way, let's preview the 2025 football schedule for the Gamecocks. Now, last year, South Carolina had a very, very good season, at least for South Carolina standards, going 9-4. South Carolina ended the regular season as the hottest team in college football, winning 6 in a row to close out, including a win over their rival, which is a big deal. If you know anything about South Carolina football, beating Clemson is a very big deal, especially 2 of the last 3 years. 4 of the 6 were against ranked teams. And Shane Beamer almost had this team in the college football playoff. It was a really good year for South Carolina. So here's the big question. Can they do it again? Can they exceed what they did last year and even this time knock down the doors of the college football playoff? Now, needless to say, that's going to be tough. But can it happen? South Carolina does return one of the best quarterbacks in the country, Lenore Sellers. He's had a lot of time to get better. I think he's going to have a massive season this year. He's in the Heisman talks. If he puts on the Superman cape, South Carolina will have a chance in every game they play. And we also talk about other players on offense like Nick Harbor, Maceo Bennett, Michael Smith, who I expect to break out, Jordan Dingle, Josiah Thompson, and many others, including, and now this one still pending from the NCAA, and hopefully they clear him up and get their crap together with this, Rasul Fajan, still awaiting eligibility from the NCAA. If he gets granted, it'll be a big-time back for the Gamecocks. But hey, you got another back in Isaiah Augusta. These are players that could have big years for South Carolina, really help elevate this offense. And you look at the defensive side, and I think this is where most of the concern is. South Carolina's defense was incredible last year. One of the best defenses in the SEC, one of the best in college football. You lose a lot defensively. You lose Kyle Kennard, Debo Williams, Nick Eamon-Woolery, Demetrius Knight, Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders. So you lose these guys. But I will tell you, will South Carolina's defense be as good as last year's? Maybe not. But South Carolina still has some playmakers defensively that can help them win some games. Let me tell you, who can forget one of the best defensive players in the country in Dylan Stewart? He's going to have a monster season. Brian Thomas Jr. is another one. Jalen Kilgore. Fakari Swain, Judge Collier, Brandon Sissy, Fred Johnson, DQ Smith, Sean Murphy, Jalua Sullivan. I mean, many more guys. I could mention many more. There are still playmakers on that defense that can step up and have a really good season and can be difference makers. And again, on offense, you still have Jared Brown, Jaden Sellers, Ventravius Jacobs. And I really think you're going to see some young guys rise up too. So it's not all bad for South Carolina. And now we're going to take a look at the schedule. And, of course, like every year in the SEC, it's difficult. I mean, we hear it every year. Difficult schedule. It's not getting any easier. But if there's one thing I want to point out before I start going game by game with these previews, I like the first 5 games. South Carolina's got a really big opportunity with these first 5 games. Virginia Tech, South Carolina State, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Kentucky. You could realistically win every single one of them. Now, will they win every single one of them? I don't know. We're not making predictions right now, but the chance is there. Every single one of those games are winnable. Not saying they won't be tough, but they're winnable. Let's go ahead and run through them. So you start your season in Atlanta on October 31st, a Sunday, against the Virginia Tech Hokies. Now, this is an interesting game for many reasons. Let's go ahead and get into the biggest one. The Beamer family history. South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer's dad, Frank Beamer, coached at Virginia Tech for a long time, a legendary coach. He took the Hokies to a national title game and won multiple conference titles. He was a legend at Virginia Tech. And now his son, Shane Beamer, head coach for the Gamecocks, will be taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies. Another reason is the first time South Carolina and Virginia Tech have played since 1991. It's been a very long time. South Carolina leads a series against Virginia Tech, but it's been a long time since these two teams have played. It's a neutral site game in Atlanta. It's on a Sunday. When does that happen for South Carolina football? I think the last time that happened, and you can correct me, was Georgia 2016 when a hurricane came through and they moved the game to Sunday. Now, Virginia Tech, for me, this has the potential to be kind of a tricky game for South Carolina. But Virginia Tech, for me, they're kind of... I'm not so sure about Virginia Tech. To me, they're a team that can go 5-7 or 7-5. They're kind of like a wild card every year. You just don't know what to expect. Last year, everyone, myself included, thought they could be a contender for the ACC. Well, they horribly fell below expectations, did not have a good season. But Virginia Tech head coach Brent Pry did go out and get themselves a new offensive coordinator. And they return Kyron Drones, I hope I said his name right, and he has an experience. 5th-year senior, he's got experience. Now, of course, Virginia Tech had a lot of roster turnover last year. They're without their best running backs and wide receivers, and without some key players on defense, but they do have some skilled new players that could rise up and be a threat. South Carolina right now is a 9-point favorite in this game. I could see South Carolina struggling a bit here in this one. If you know the history of South Carolina football in Week 1 games, it's not been well. It hasn't been well. It's important to avoid a slip-up here against Virginia Tech, and I do believe South Carolina is a better team than Virginia Tech and should win this game. But avoiding a slip-up here is key. Then you go home. First game at Williams-Brice, and it will indeed be under the lights, and your boy will be there. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of love to those boys down at Orangeburg, but South Carolina should win this game with no issue whatsoever. Then Vanderbilt and our boy Diego Pavia come to Columbia, South Carolina, and boy, look out, Gamecocks. Diego in the doors, they have this game circled. Now, Vanderbilt had a very solid season last year by Vandy standards. They won 7 games. That's the most they've won since the James Franklin years. South Carolina and Vanderbilt both casually having their best season in a decade in 2024. But yeah, Vanderbilt went to a bowl game and won it. They had their best season in a very long time. Can they maintain that? We'll see. I think it's going to be difficult for Vanderbilt this year, honestly. But they do return Diego Pavia. And they return tight end Eli Stowers. And I think that is a duo that could definitely cause some trouble for opponents this year. And Vandy's defense will be Vandy's defense like always. But I don't expect much from Vandy this year. I mean, they had a good year last year. It was a fun story for them. But I don't expect much for them this year. But, of course, upsets happen all the time. Vanderbilt beat Alabama last year with the greatest upsets of all time. It was insane. But they haven't beaten South Carolina in 16 years. And they got to go to Williams-Brice at night. One of the toughest places to play in the SEC, especially at night. Shane Beamer has only lost one SEC game at night. Top 5 and top 10 teams have gotten destroyed at Williams-Brice at night. Night games in the SEC don't always matter, SEC. Well, it does in Columbia, South Carolina. Eventually, though, Vandy will snap that streak to Carolina. Will it be this year? We'll see. Then we go on the road against Missouri, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this one kind of scares your boy here. Now, I say that to say this. I don't think Missouri is going to be as good as they were last year. I think that's a 7-win team more than it is a 9-win team, no disrespect to Mizzou. They lost a lot offensively. A ton of offensive productions. Now, they hit the portal, of course. So, they'll replace some positions. But I do see Missouri's offense taking a step back. But I think their defense will be solid. They return a lot defensively. It being on the road as well also scares me with this one. Now, South Carolina finally snapped the streak against Missouri. It was great to see. But this is still a matchup that scares me. And it feels like if there's anywhere South Carolina is going to possibly slip up in the 5-week stretch, this might be it. Now, I think South Carolina is more than capable of winning this game. But I'm just saying this one kind of scares me a little bit. Then we got Kentucky, and I don't think I need to tell anybody. I think Kentucky's in for another long year this year. I think Mark Stoops is in his last days. They lost a key football coach, Vince Marrow, or Morrow, however you say it, to Louisville. Now, they do bring in another quarterback with SEC experience, Zach Calzada. And again, talk about roster flip over. A lot of new players for Kentucky. I'm very uncertain on Kentucky. I mean, it's possible they could be 4-8 again. But there is a possibility, too, that they could improve just a little bit. Either way, it'll be tough for Kentucky to make a bowl game here. You get them at home, which is a huge advantage. You've won 3 in a row against Kentucky. Shane Beamer has had Kentucky Mark Stoops' number, to say it very kindly. I think this is a very winnable game for South Carolina here. We'll see if Beamer's owning of Kentucky continues. Then you go into a bye week, and you take on the LSU Tigers. And this will begin a very difficult 4-game stretch that, I'll be honest, guys, could very well determine your season. LSU, OU, Alabama, and Ole Miss. All 4 of those games. What you do with that 4-game stretch, if you don't slip up with the 5-game stretch before the bye week, could very well determine the outcome of your season. And it begins in Baton Rouge, in Death Valley, against the LSU Tigers, who I expect to be extremely good this year. Possibly a threat to make the playoffs or the SEC championship game. And if that game is at Death Valley at night, oh my boy, get ready. Get ready for that one. But South Carolina is going to go into that game with a massive chip on their shoulder and revenge factor. We all know the story. South Carolina feels like that game was robbed from them. They feel like they were robbed of that win. They pretty much had that win in their pocket. Until a call from the referee happened. Now, to be fair, you kind of put yourself in that position when you blew a 17-0 lead. You can't do that. South Carolina is going to have revenge on their mind in Death Valley. But that will be a very tough game, especially on the road. I expect LSU to be extremely strong, especially offensively. Is it possible? Maybe, but it will be tough. Then you play Oklahoma. Oklahoma Sooners. Now, again, everybody in my personal life knows Oklahoma is my second favorite team. I love OU football. Not as much as I love Gamecock football, but I definitely do love the Sooners. And I expect Oklahoma to be improved, especially offensively this year. John Mateer coming out from Washington State is going to be a stud. He's going to be a stud. I expect him to make an immediate impact. And Oklahoma does have players offensively that can absolutely cause problems. And don't get me wrong, my Sooner side is very excited and intrigued to see what Oklahoma will do with their offense this year. And I think this has a chance to be probably the most important game for South Carolina this season. Because let's say you're 5-1 right now, heading into the Oklahoma game with a loss in Death Valley. Not that I'm predicting that, but I'm just saying this game is going to be very important. Extremely important. And you get them at home, and I still think this game is very, very winnable. But it's also tough. I don't think that this will be the bloodbath in the first 5 minutes that we saw last year. Oklahoma is going to come ready to play. And they're going to remember last year. South Carolina's got to be ready. Then Alabama comes to town. And let me tell you something. Every year, my gut has a prediction. A feeling. What's one game that South Carolina can win that no one thinks they will? Last year, for my gut, it was A&M, and it happened. How I feel about the A&M game last year is how I feel about this Alabama game this year. But again, I think Bama is going to have a really good season. They're going to be a lot better than they were last year. That is going to be tough. But if that game is a night game at Williams-Brice Stadium, many top 10 teams have come into Williams-Brice at night and have found themselves crushed. Tennessee in 22, Texas A&M last year. It has happened. Can South Carolina pull off? Because I definitely expect Alabama to be in the top 10 heading into this game. Can South Carolina take down the Tide and the massive implications that would have for your season if you did? We'll see. My gut tells me that this could watch out. That's what my gut tells me. Just watch out. Then you go back on the road against Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss loses quite a bit this year, especially defensively. They lose Jackson Dart. But you know Lane Kiffin, a portal king. He hits the portal hard every year. He'll restock and reload. But the question is, will Ole Miss be as good as they were last year? Because truly, Ole Miss had a squad more than capable of making the playoffs last year, and they shot themselves in the foot against Florida and Kentucky. Pretty much playing themselves out of their full potential. I think Ole Miss is going to take a slight step back next year. Not by much, but they're not. I don't think they're making the playoffs. With that being said, this will be another tricky game for South Carolina, but I have a strange confidence about this one. Out of the tough road games that you think South Carolina could win this year, I think it would be Ole Miss. Again, I'm not predicting that, but if you gave me a choice between who are they going to win against, LSU, Ole Miss, or A&M, I would probably go with Ole Miss right now. And I know what happened last year, but South Carolina was pretty injured offensively heading into that game last year. No excuse for how they played, but it does give some context. I just got a strange confidence that South Carolina could find themselves having a shot to win this game against Ole Miss. We'll see. I'm not predicting it right now, at least, but we'll see. Then you have another bye week, and then the final 3 games of the season, starting with the Texas A&M Aggies on the road. Now, I will tell you this. I don't know if this is a comfort thing for any of you guys, but thank God that this game is not at night. Thank God that this game is not at night. It's an early game, and I'll tell you what, I feel like these two teams could be evenly matched at this point in the season. But again, it is a road game for Texas A&M. South Carolina's never won in College Station. And Texas A&M, what are they going to be this year, guys? It feels like every year we say they'll win 10 or 11 games and they go 8-4 every single time. What do we expect from Texas A&M? We will see. Mike Elko is taking over play calling this year, and I think A&M has a lot of life offensively, especially with Marcel Reed back. I definitely expect a very solid team out of A&M this year. My only question is, will they meet expectations? Because I can definitely see A&M hitting double-digit wins, but I could also see them falling below expectations yet again. I'm not sure what to expect out of Texas A&M this year, guys, but I can tell you this, it'll be tough. We've never won in College Station. Will this finally be the year? We will see. And then you got Coastal Carolina, my boys, the Chants, who are absolutely killing it right now in the College World Series. Let's go, Coastal. Represent, buddy. But in all seriousness, and again, all love and respect to Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina might be my second favorite team in this state. I mean, honestly, I love Coastal Carolina. If this was 5 years ago, I'd be very worried. I'd be very, very worried. And I'm not sleeping on the Chants in football, but South Carolina is going to be favored in this game, probably big, and they definitely should win. But I will say, and not hinting that we'll lose to them in any way imaginable, but my boys down there in Myrtle Beach cannot be slept on. Then we got Lenore Sellers' son, the Clemson Tigers. Now, this has been a very, very interesting series the last 4 years. The last 4 years, both teams are split 2-2. South Carolina's won 2 of the last 3, both of them being in Clemson. South Carolina has not beat Clemson at home since 2013. And here's a not-so-fun stat. South Carolina has only beaten Clemson at home 6 times since 1980. That is, Clemson has, for whatever reason, dominated the rivalry in Columbia. But eventually, South Carolina is going to get a win at home against Clemson. Will it be this year? We'll see. I'll tell you right now, a lot of Gamecock fans aren't going to want to hear this. I think Clemson is poised to have their best season since Trevor Lawrence was there. I hate to say that, and that's not me saying they're going to win a national title or anything like that. But I'm just letting you know, Clemson, I think, has one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. I think their defense under new defensive coordinator Tom Allen will have things improved. Dabo proved a lot of us wrong. He proved me wrong. I'll admit it. I'm not afraid to admit it. Dabo proved me wrong. Now, in my post-game video when we beat Clemson, I said that it felt like these two teams were heading in opposite directions because Dabo was too afraid to use the portal and the coaching hires have not been very good. Well, Dabo went out and made a really good coaching hire defensively, and he started using the portal. So Dabo, it feels like he's starting to get with the times in college football, which is what everyone has asked of him. Will it translate for success in Clemson this year? We'll see, because the thing about Clemson, they weren't very bad last year, but against every good team they played, Georgia, Louisville, South Carolina, and Texas, they lost. 3 of the 4 got their brains beat in. So I'll tell you, I'm waiting to see on Clemson, but I do expect them to have a very solid squad this year. And it's about time South Carolina finally gets one at home in Columbia. And I'll be honest with you, this game's at noon. And if you want me to rant about something, why in the hell is this game at noon? Why is this game? That feels like a disrespect in a way. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, feels very disrespectful to rivalry in a way. But it don't matter. Hey, South Carolina's undefeated against Shane Beamer when they play Clemson at noon. So it don't matter. 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 a.m. Just win. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. That is my preview of the South Carolina Gamecocks schedule for the 2025 season. What do you think? What do you think South Carolina will do in the 2025 season? Comment down below. If you agree with me, let me know. If you don't, that's okay. You can let me know as well. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. And we'll be back talking more Gamecocks pretty soon. Your boy, SECFT, checking out. Go Gamecocks.